Hi, welcome to Chat Communications Happenings and Trends. We've got, I think, 4 stories we're going to try to cover for you today, so I will just jump right in. So we've got a little bit of, I guess, not even just a little bit, but very tragic news. Let's see, I've got it pulled open here. Okay, so when did this happen? I guess around July 20th. So at least 4 to 5 days ago, one of the parents of 2 Parkland students that had gone through the horrible massacre that happened in Florida was murdered. He was killed at his convenience store. It looked like initially it was a routine robbery, and I just want to mention his name real fast. I am probably going to butcher this, but his name was Ayub Ali. He was 61, and his 2 children that had gone to the high school they survived that incident, but he apparently was unable to survive later on when he was attacked at, again, his convenience store and shot and killed. It initially looked like a routine robbery. The suspect came back after he had stolen what he was able to steal from the cash register. And at that time when he had returned, he had shot and killed Ayub Ali. And it's a really horrific incident. There is footage of the incident as well. You, by all means, if you want to, go search it out yourself. I personally am not going to show it on the program, but this is just horrific. Now, I do want to note that the suspect is in custody now for having done this incident, or I guess this shooting. It's horrible. I mean, can you imagine? The family has already gone through such a tragedy in having the Parkland shooting and having 2 children that survived that, only to have the father, who was starting to be a really outspoken advocate against the current gun laws that are in Florida, or actually lack thereof, because gun laws are pretty loose in Florida and in most states, most red states especially. And so he was a big proponent of trying to get things like universal background checks and the like, to assure that we at least know who is legally carrying firearms or is legally allowed to have them, and these universal background checks to cross state lines, because a lot of times they don't. So he is now dead, unfortunately. And I guess it's not, yeah, I don't know how it's to say this. It's a horrific tragedy. He had also, I think, a 20-something-month-old child as well, 22-month-old son. He also had a son going into 1st grade. And again, he had 2 teenagers that were in high school. Both of them were in high school. So, I mean, he left behind a huge family, and it's just horrible. It's horrible. Sometimes I just get so speechless at things that happen in this world, and I think this is one of those incidents that all I can think of, like, this is so horrible to have to go through multiple tragedies in such a short time span. I mean, first of all, nobody should have to experience these things at all, regardless of how the frequency in which they occur. We shouldn't have to be fearful of our children's lives or of our lives when we go into a public place at all, or when we send our children to school. Those should be places, yes, and I'm going to use the word, those should be safe spaces. People should be safe from being gunned down. They should be safe from being gunned down at their place of work, period. We are not police officers that are legally allowed to take people's lives. And now, I mean, basically, they're trying to arm teachers now to basically have the ability to legally take people's lives, let alone the lax stand your ground laws in Florida anyways. This is just horrible. I don't know how else to explain this. And I don't really have a good segue on, unfortunately. Oh, by the way, Janet is not with us tonight. She is taking care of some family matters, but we will have her back on the program very soon. And so I just want you to know that she is missing tonight, but she is not missing in our hearts at any rate. And she said she'll probably tune in at some point if she has time just to say hi. So we'll see what happens. Lauren, do you have anything to say about this particular story before I move on?
I mean, it's just, it's just sad. There's nothing else to it. Yeah. I mean, I am kind of curious to the aspect of like, he came back. So like, did he realize who the guy was, or like, that's kind of bothering me since I read that story. He came back. Like, why?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you just take the money and run? I don't know.
Okay, so here's my like, oh my goodness, what if type of like conspiracy theory type of thing. Like, what if, some secret agency like, well, it's not really a secret agency, but something like, the NRA, knew that this father was being a real, having a big influence in his community, right? And beyond, to try to get sensible gun laws instated in the country, if not in his own state. And then they got this guy that was down on his luck, and maybe they'll pay, if he does a hit, they'll pay his family a certain amount of money and take care of the expenses. I don't know. I mean, that's like the conspiracy theory Alex Jones type of thing, to entertain. But yeah, it does bother me that he did go back, because I mean, I have never robbed anybody, but I'm assuming the sensible thing to do would be to take the money and run. Don't come back. I mean, you just make more trouble for everybody. And what's the likelihood that this individual did know him? I mean, they probably didn't.
I mean, I imagine the guy's face has been on the news in the local area and things like that. I mean, coming back is probably most likely got him caught too. And I don't know, maybe he was influenced by the NRA in some other way, just watching the shit and just got an idea. I mean, who knows? It's just, it's really sad.
Wild.
It's four kids he left behind, 4. And it's just, yeah.
Yeah. It's wild. I mean, again, that has been bothering me about the story, that he just came back after he already had the money. It just, it makes no sense. That's maybe a question we'll never have an answer to, and I think we'll have to be okay with not having that answered. It is still tragic nonetheless. Okay, I'm gonna move on. All right, so over the weekend, Trump tweets, fun stuff to address. Okay, so basically, Trump went on a rant, to say the least, this weekend. And I just want to show everybody kind of what he said in a tweet. And I think it was spun off of maybe some articles that had come out on Friday and Saturday, respectively, concerning Iran. Of course, he probably didn't, I mean, the headlines were pretty kind of explosive, but if you dug into the articles themselves, it was just like, oh, okay, whatever. So I'm assuming that our president did not read past the headline. And it resulted in the following tweet. So he said, and again, I'm probably going to butcher this name, to Iranian President Rouhani, never ever threaten the United States again, or you will suffer consequences the likes of which few throughout history have ever suffered before. Whew, he needs some commas there. We are no longer a country that will stand for your demented words of violence and death. Be cautious! Exclamation point. All right. Okay, so what I take from this Yes. Is this a petulant child? Absolutely. You're dealing with a hot-headed individual that can't seem to, I don't know, do foreign policy behind, with advisors and people that may actually better know the situation, know what's going on with Iran. Am I even saying that right? Iran? I don't know if I'm saying that right. So yeah, I think that it's terrible if he's basically arguing or stating that he will nuke Iran. That's troubling to me, and I think it should be troubling to other people, and it should be troubling to the majority of the country. And surprisingly, surprised but not surprised simultaneously, he got over 322,000 likes on this particular tweet. How could you? I don't know how you could like something like that. Personally, how could you like a threat of nuclear war? I find that troubling, to say the least. And again, this is just based off of a headline, like his outburst, based off of a headline, guys. I mean, could you imagine if it was something worse than just a headline? I can't imagine what would happen, because this guy has all the power in the world to nuke whomever he pleases. He doesn't have to ask Congress. I mean, he can start a war with any other country. Gosh, I think I read a statistic the other day that I think we are actively at war or bombing or in conflict with, I think, 40% of the countries in the world. And that's alarming. And so you have a president that won't curtail this type of rhetoric, that won't curtail any type of military response to anything. And again, I feel like some people probably voted for this guy thinking that, oh yeah, we'd get out of war this time, and it just hasn't happened. And we're also a nation that has gotten so accustomed to being at war or being in conflicts that I don't think people care anymore. We're still fighting in Afghanistan, by the way. Do people give a shit about that? I don't think do they even know anymore? And then now everybody, you at least have 322,000 individuals, if they're real, of course, that think going to war, initiating, engaging in another war with Iran is a good idea. Or at least, what is it showing? Is it a sign of strength? What is it showing? It's not strength. What strength is being able to have diplomacy in spite or despite of all of the other obstacles. It's easy. This is easy. It's easy to bomb. I mean, gosh, if you have all the military budget in the world, which we do in the United States, it's the easiest thing to do is bomb and threaten. It's harder and more. It's just harder in a larger sign of strength to engage in diplomacy. And this individual, by the way, and by individual, I mean this president, is also the same person that in another tweet in like 2013 said that Barack Obama was going to start a war with Iran just to show that he's a tough guy or something to that effect. And then now he's trying to engage in a war with Iran. And we're going to get to the reason why we think this is the case. But in the meantime, I think everybody should be troubled by this. I think anytime that you threaten nuclear war with another nation is concerning, to say the least. And it just shows you the state of your president's mind. Am I right on this? I mean, again, I don't think that this is showing strength whatsoever. What do you think, Lauren?
I mean, it depends on your personal definition of strength, right? Because like conservatives, strength is just like that macho man crap you can find anywhere from any, middle-aged old white guy. I mean, like to them, this is strength, and this is telling off Iran, basically. Like they think this is strongman talk, and I don't know, it's just absurd. It's just really fucking absurd. And that probably goes into like probably top 10 Trump meltdowns so far. And I mean, conservatives see it as strength. Normal people don't. Normal people see that and will get a meltdown. But yeah, it's not strength, and it is concerning.
So yeah, if we redefining strength or defining strength, as you mentioned, I agree. I think people have different definitions. Conservatives will have different definitions. They are attracted to this kind of talk, and they are attracted to this type of like the illusion of the alpha dog of the pack. When all I see is somebody who has lost it, to all I see is somebody who is very weak and unable to really channel their energy appropriately. Because again, I think it's easy to go off on Twitter. It's easy to do these things. And by the way, I want to read a comment real fast because it made me giggle. Plantastic Life stated, the Constitution should be amended to prevent the President of the United States from using Twitter. I think that's funny. But
just all social media in general should be ruled out for them.
Yeah. I mean, because wars have been started over less, right? Wars have been started over the most pathetic things in the world. And so to have a president, the quote unquote leader of the free world, right, do these things and go off like this just does show that, to me, that there's a certain level of detachment from, reality, from what you could do and what type of power that you hold. Even I think he realizes to some extent that he holds some power, but it could result into war, into chaos and things like that. And war is not a pretty thing. And I guess because he's not directly impacted by war, he doesn't give a shit. But that's all of us. We would all be impacted to some extent, except for those that benefit from it. That's how they're impacted. They're impacted in a positive way because they get money.
Unless a war reaches our soil, like a lot of people, I mean, conservatives mainly, and there's some liberals you can toss in there. They're not going to give a shit. Like, unless it's directly on American soil, they're not going to care.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just, yeah.
That's unfortunate. I think I really don't know if it's a matter of caring or if it's fatigue, like, yeah, we've been doing this now for so long, so we've forgotten about it. We've forgotten about, yeah. I don't recall a time personally, and I know that I lived before 9/11. So we weren't at war all the time, but I was pretty young and I wasn't, conscientious about things that were going on. And so all my memories are around the fact that, we've been at war. That's America,
Yeah.
Not to mention people like you, Lauren, that are actually younger than I am.
Yeah.
You weren't alive.
One of my earliest memories is 9/11.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And I think it's definitely a lot of apathy. I think with a lot of conservatives, it's not apathy. They're malicious. Like they want to hurt people and they want to see people hurt. But I think with a lot of like liberals and moderates and centrists and all that, I think a lot of it is apathy. It's just like
Oh, I think I'm losing you.
Been in so. Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, you cut out for a second.
Okay. With conservatives, I think it's absolutely, their want for war is absolutely malicious. Like they want to see their so-called enemies killed and bombed and maimed. And with, moderates and centrists and liberals, it's just apathy because especially with younger liberals, it's just, they don't know anything else. Like America goes to war, that's what America does,
Right.
I mean, that's a lot of it.
I mean, let's not forget that Barack Obama bombed so much, he ran out of bombs. So, I mean, so nobody gives a crap about being at all of these conflicts and wars. And the people that do are told that they're not patriotic. You know what I mean? It's just, it's so backwards. It's like, no, I care about America and my fellow Americans. And I want them to have health care and I want them to have good education. Yet, and I don't want to keep paying for these exorbitant costs for our military and our defense budget just for contractors. It goes to contractors. It doesn't go to our military personnel. They don't get these nice cushy raises or anything like that. This funding goes to defense contractors. And you're going to call me not patriotic for calling that out, for saying like, hey, we shouldn't be bombing. What we should do is take that money and spend it on healthcare, on a universal healthcare system, so everybody, so people don't, so that 45,000 people don't die every year because they can't afford healthcare in the United States. That's patriotism. I just think we need to start redefining ourselves. And I mean, the left has done a miserable job. I'm just going to say it. The left has done a miserable job. We have, and this includes me. I'm to blame too. But we've gotten really comfortable, complacent. Even when we weren't comfortable, it's like, well, what can I do about it? And I hear that a lot from people that are around me in my life. They're like, I can't do anything. When you can do something. It's better than doing nothing. And yeah, the left has fallen asleep behind the wheel to some extent. The center is like, I don't even know what to think about them right now. I am not happy with the center, to say the least. But I think that we really need to be an opposing force. And I think one thing the left doesn't do well is organize. We've got a lot of really good ideas. We really do. We've got a lot of great things that I think will, if applied appropriately, will really benefit the American people. We want to see an end to all these conflicts and wars by getting our troops out, by stop bombing them. We know that we have created terrorists because, I mean, wouldn't you be angry if your family died from a bomb from another country? And what would you have to lose? I don't know if I would have anything to lose if everybody I loved and cared about got murdered. And that's what the United States does on a regular daily basis, if not hourly basis. And so we've done this, and we need to be responsible too and start doing the right thing. Oh gosh, what is going on? What's going on?
That's our military budget.
Oh yeah, thank you. So yeah, you can see that we spend more than what the next 10 countries combined. How many is that? I can't see it. I'm on the wrong thing.
I think that's 13 countries.
Shit. So the next 13 countries combined, I guess not even the next 13 countries combined, because the 13 countries together equal the United States defense spending.
Mm-hmm.
That's insane. I mean, yeah, could you imagine if we allocated that money to something beneficial and not used to destroy people's lives and livelihood? If we actually use that money to lift up our own citizens?
I mean, we could literally end poverty.
Yeah, we could. We could end poverty. We could have ended poverty like 50 years ago if we wanted to. We just didn't elect to. It wasn't a priority, and it's still not a priority because we've got this narrative that if you are impoverished, it's your fault. You didn't, bootstrap enough. You didn't work hard enough. You deserve to be in that situation. Why? I understand that we're a product of our culture and the propaganda in which we have been fed. But at what point do people start realizing that we have issues, that the propaganda is wrong, that we've been fed these lies, that it's just strange to me that, speaking of poverty, everybody blames this figurative person. They don't know them personally. but they blame them for their own state of helplessness or hopelessness in which they reside. Yet, who do you know personally that doesn't work or doesn't work hard? You know, I don't know a single person that doesn't work hard. I know many people in my life have multiple jobs, and the people that aren't working, like my mom, she's on disability. She's disabled, and she worked as hard as she could until she couldn't. In fact, even like disability wasn't enough sometimes, and she would literally go out and clean houses, you know, to help supplement to get groceries for the month. And so she's disabled and still having to work. So I'm just wondering, who is that person that you're calling lazy? Who do you know?
I mean, I see some conservatives who say, like, you know, I work 2-3 jobs and I do what I can to get by, and I'm proud of it, and that's what you should do too. And they get mad at people who like complain about the system, and it's like, it's really sad that they don't think they deserve better than that. I mean, they truly think that them working 2 to 3 jobs and just basically working to death is how it's supposed to be, instead of it being, you know, instead of them thinking they should have somewhat of a life to go enjoy themselves, they think they should be worked to death. And I mean, it's just all brainwashings of capitalism. And I don't know how else to put it.
Absolutely. Yeah, and you're right. What is the term for this? Gosh, I was talking about this a couple months ago, so it's been a while, so sorry, I can't recall what the actual term is, but it's kind of that American, you know, the little guy kind of overcoming all the obstacles, and so they're working multiple jobs, but they'll be okay in the end type of thing, where they like showed everybody and they triumphed over all the adversity.
Oh, the American dream. Basically.
Yeah, it's kind of like the American dream, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they're particularly prosperous at the end. It just means that they kind of made it through the obstacles. Like everybody just fetishizes these obstacles and challenges that people have to go through. People, you know, why? Because we all go through these things. And if we all don't, then that probably is indicative of your status in society. And then we have to fetishize them to make it seem okay, to make it seem like we ourselves can also make it. And we should expect better. We need to expect better, and we can expect better, because we have created a system in which it favors a certain group of people, and that's the wealthy, the extremely wealthy. It's a system that will always favor them unless we start making some serious changes and start thinking better of our society and ourselves. And like you said, I don't understand the mentality of not thinking that you deserve better in your life. Why is it that your children don't get to go to college? Why? When some wealthy person's children, what did their children do to deserve their spot in society where they're at? When when they got maybe an inheritance, and now they can go to whatever rich, fancy college that they want to. Why do your kids not get to go to college? You know, why is that? I don't understand why we can't expect better. I'm thinking of who? Horatio Alger story. I don't know who that is. Brad Bloom says, the oligarchy promotes that fetishization because it keeps the people down. They figured out it's much easier to convince people to oppress themselves. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, and that speaks to Lauren's comment as well about why some conservatives will default to, well, I'm working all these jobs and look how hard I'm working. I'm obviously making it, to some extent, making it. Yeah, you're alive. But yeah, it benefits to oppress yourself, because then they don't have to do any work. All right, I'm going to move on to another story. Lauren, is this a good time to mention the number that they can call in? We've got 2 more stories left.
I wasn't able to set up the phone number because my computer doesn't have a mic.
Oh, I could have done it. I have Skype and everything. Yeah, I could have done that. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, my bad.
Yeah, that's okay. Actually, I think I can log in real fast. That way, like, people can, I think we can probably hear me and I can talk to them directly too. Is that right, you think?
Yeah, that should work.
Okay.
You won't have to deal with that that echo.
Oh, I may have to. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Okay. So I'm going to open my Skype right now, guys. But in the meantime, let me tell you about the other Netanyahu thing that I had. So we mentioned the thing about Netanyahu, not Netanyahu, about Iran. And WikiLeaks had recently released some information about some tapes that recorded Netanyahu stating that he convinced and he didn't even convince, that he was the one that had the United States presidents nix the Iran deal, which honestly, that really shouldn't be that surprising. But at the same time, I have to default to the fact of, well, everybody's talking about Russia. Everybody's talking about how Donald Trump is Putin's puppet, how, Putin is influencing the United States president and getting him to enact policies in favor of Russia. Well, where is anybody on Netanyahu? Because Netanyahu literally stated that I was the one that told the president, that got the president to nix this deal. That to me seems like, I don't know, isn't that the president being Netanyahu's puppet? That's my stating. So they got Netanyahu recorded saying this. In addition to this information about the influence that he's had over the United States president, Netanyahu also mentioned that Iran should, with the help of God, needs to be obliterated off the map. And then, coincidentally, uncoincidentally, who knows, you have this tweet from Donald Trump saying essentially that he's going to nuke Iran off the map. I just want to know, where's the mainstream media on this information? Because again, it really does appear to me that Donald Trump is enacting policies and is working for and on behalf of the Israeli president or Israeli prime minister. I don't know what he's considered as, but that's what it seems like to me. What's your thoughts, Lauren?
I mean, like, Trump really likes Netanyahu, like, really likes the guy. So, I mean, you talk about personal friendships that, like, Putin and Trump are buddies or whatever the fuck. I mean, like, the real friendship here is, like, Bibi and Trump. Like, of course he's gonna do whatever the fuck Netanyahu wants, because that's his friend. Of course. That's his buddy. You know?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it is his buddy. I just didn't know that they were that close. Excuse me, I didn't know that they were that close. But theocracies are dangerous, guys. They haven't been shown to be the most beneficial in human history, and Israel is nothing more but a theocracy. It is. What is the email address for Actify Chat?
Just actifychat@gmail, I think.
That's what I thought. Oh, you know what? I left off a thing. Okay. Sorry, guys. We'll keep talking. But yeah, I think that this is dangerous. I mean, he's enacting policy on behalf of a small country, you know?
And he's doing it on behalf of a different country, but he's also doing it on behalf of Netanyahu, who's basically a fascist dictator. I mean, honestly. So it's even more dangerous when you put Netanyahu in the context, who is much smarter and purposeful than Trump.
Yeah. Yeah, he's definitely. Are you logged into the thing, the email for Actify chat?
I'm not.
Okay, because I had to get a security code.
Fuck's sakes.
I know, right? The things we do for you guys to not call us. It's amazing. All right, let's do this. I don't know if anybody's watching right now. Do you guys does anybody plan on calling in? Please say so in the chat and we will try to make that happen. Otherwise, I'm not going to bother with this. I'm going to move on and talk about another story. Again, just to wrap this one up with Iran and Netanyahu and Donald Trump, it really does seem like he's been influenced by Netanyahu, and yet again, the mainstream media is pretty quiet on this. And in fact, I think most of the mainstream media is kind of like, you should be this hard on Russia with Donald Trump's tweet. Are you kidding me? How about none of that? Not with Iran, not with Russia, none of it. Don't threaten nuclear war with any country whatsoever. Guys.
Crazy thought, but like, how about just leave other countries the fuck alone, you know?
I mean, yeah, that's a crazy thought. We are such interventionalists. We can't do that. That's not American. How dare you, Lauren? That's so un-American. Yeah, it'd be nice. Okay, Brad, you're not calling ever. Yeah, the phone's not online yet because I don't know if anybody's going to call. Okay, people are saying they're going to call. Okay, so we got it. We'll get this security code. Lauren, Lauren, could you get the security code for me, and that way I can move on to.
I honestly don't have the info for the email.
Okay.
Sorry.
Let's do new incognito window. I'll do the email thingy. All right. Can you guys still see me? Am I still online? Hello? Lauren, am I still online?
Yeah, you're still online.
Okay, good. Phew.
You went out for a second, but you're good.
Okay, because okay, let me go to, I should already have this account on my, let's do this. It's because I love all of you guys. I'm assuming that she probably used the same stuff, information. Are you kidding me? Okay.
Let's just not worry about it for today.
I can't do it, guys, because it's needing a confirmation for me, a confirmation email for me to get into the email service for Actify, and it's Janet's email, so I don't have access to that, and so sorry, you'll have to call in on Thursday. That being the case, let's move on to the next story. Yeah, I apologize. We would have set this up earlier had I known, and had Lauren known as well that I could probably handle it. But we were both very busy today, guys. Okay, so we are going to talk about James Comey. He keeps propping up from time to time in the news and on Twitter, and things go viral from him because he has become the centrist's darling, to say the least. So if you don't know who James Comey is, he was the former FBI director under under Barack Obama, and he basically is the guy that came out somewhere close to voting season and said that he was voting season somewhere I think about 2 weeks before the election, or about 2 weeks prior to the election, and basically said, I am putting Hillary Clinton back under the investigation because we got more new information pertaining to a certain set of emails. But it was very quickly turned around and said, actually, investigation is officially closed. We could not find anything, et cetera, et cetera. And a lot of people contributed Hillary Clinton's loss to his stating that they were putting Hillary Clinton back under investigation. Honestly, I don't know if there's any truth to that. I think a lot of the people on the left, on the real left, don't see it as being as a valid argument for Clinton's failures, because she did, and she failed hard, and she didn't even care, and she continued to point fingers. In fact, to this day, she continues to blame everybody but herself for her failings to win votes.
I just don't like, if you were a voter in 2016 who was like, you didn't know who you wanted to vote for, if you even wanted to vote, Comey coming out wasn't going to change your mind. I don't believe that for a second. And if it did change your mind, you don't have much conventions to begin with,
Right. Well, I don't think a lot of people do have many convictions to begin with. I think that there are some people that are really invested in politics and policy, but that is not the majority of the country. The majority of the country is just kind of like wishy-washy about things. And so could it have had an effect and just nudged those people over the line? Maybe. But she did fail, and she failed hard. And again, it was kind of like, I don't like either of these candidates. You didn't give me anything to vote for, guys. Do I want Donald Trump? No. He's horrible. He's a horrible human being, and I don't want him to be president. I can see his dog whistles. I can see he would not be very favorable to minorities in this country. I could see that he really wanted to have a strict Muslim ban, which would be banning an entire religious group from entering the country. I could see those things, and I don't want those things, because I am not afraid of Muslims, and I am not afraid of immigrants, or any of that stuff. So did I want him to be president? No, but I didn't want Hillary Clinton president either, because she had a long history of maintaining wars, of being corrupt, of doing corrupt weapon deals, of gutting welfare, of saying that she wouldn't advocate for single payer, for universal healthcare system, basically stating that she was okay with the fact that thousands of Americans die every year because they cannot afford healthcare. She's okay with that. But I'm not okay with that. And so nobody represented any of my convictions, which are real and are actually pretty fucking stable, in the 2016 election. So was Comey's announcement about Hillary Clinton's emails or investigation being opened again, was that going to sway people like me? No. But again, the majority of the country is not me. They don't have those convictions. They are not, they don't pay attention. All they hear is like, holy shit, she's back under investigation. Well, then I'm not going to vote for her. I think that's real. Some people, that's all they hear. So it could have influenced it. Now, she didn't help herself. I'm not saying that she wasn't a total failure in her campaign and in listening to anybody around her, because she knew better, right? But anyways, back to James Comey. So that's who James Comey is. And so did he do Hillary Clinton any favors? Fuck no. But at the same time, he wasn't really helping Donald Trump either. I think Donald Trump was like, yay, James Comey helped me. But he was so subsequently fired from his position because Donald Trump fired him. And anyways, so there's this thing that I've seen from Clinton supporters, from some Democratic established people, this rehabilitation of particularly horrendous people. This rehabilitation of George W. Bush, which started an illegal war against persons that never threatened us, that never did anything, the war with Iraq, that lied to the American people into going into a war based off of something that a group of Saudi Arabians did that were basically funded by people in Pakistan.
Also, and so quick note on Comey, he was Lieutenant Attorney General under Bush, so.
I mean, he's a hardcore Republican. Don't get me wrong. He is. He's a Republican, and he's always identified as a Republican. But something that you are starting to see now, because I think the Overton window has shifted so far to the right that now, I mean, the Democrats are like, yeah, if you're not with Trump, you must be with us. But this goes to show you that the Democratic Party isn't really a right-wing party. And this is what I've always contended. I've always stated that the Democrats are just Republicans. They just are maybe a little better on social justice issues. I don't know, a little bit. They wouldn't have gutted welfare necessarily, although they did under the Clinton administration. Well, they wouldn't have put work requirements on welfare recipients, maybe. I can't even say that for sure. So you see this rehabilitation, and Comey is no exception. So currently, the Democratic Party is pretty much from what I have seen is basically courting Comey. Comey has accepted the offer and has decided to go to the Democrats. But again, that doesn't mean that any of his values have changed. It just means that the Democrats mirror his values, which again shows you where the Democratic Party is. It's so right-wing. It's so right-wing.
And I mean, Comey's recent tweet where he's basically telling Democrats not to give in to the socialist left, which like it's ridiculous because I'm assuming he's talking about someone like Ocasio. Ocasio's not a socialist. Like, I'm sorry, but she's not. She's barely a democratic socialist. At most, she's a social democrat with some dim sock leanings. And social democracy is a center-left idea, which still involves capitalism. It's not that much of a radical change in society except providing people what they need. So he's against social democracy, something as basically social democracy, if we're looking at the international political spectrum, it's a centrist idea. So he's even against that. And it's amazing. And you have these fucking liberals supporting a guy who, a part of the FBI, his FBI, and I'm sure they still do this, and they probably did this before him, if I know, but when he was director of FBI, they targeted mentally ill Muslim kids online and convinced them to commit terrorist attacks. Like, the FBI manufactured over 20 terrorist attacks. And you have liberals fucking supporting this guy and cheering him on. And it's so fucking vile that there are no words, you know? I mean,
it's disgusting. I mean, but again, that just shows you who the Democrats are more than anything. I mean, they're so far to the right that, again, centrist is a social democracy, is social democracies throughout the world. Throughout a lot of Europe, social democracy is very center. But the country isn't there. The country isn't right. The country is left. They would probably, like, the center of the country is social democracy. They were at that place. Now, can we convince them to be pure socialists? Probably not. But it's at least a start. But as long as we keep getting pulled to the right by our elected officials, then our center will not be reflective of reality. We're always told that the center are these, like, Democrats, maybe Republicans like Comey, that liked the Affordable Care Act, want to protect it, and all, like the fact that Wall Street was not really regulated very much, but there was a little bit of regulation so that if they crash the economy, I don't know, we'll bail them out again. Something along those lines. But that, again, does not reflect how the country feels. The country wants the bankers punished. The country wants a Medicare for all single-payer system. The country wants sensible gun laws. The country wants immigrants to stay in the country. The country wants our dreamers to stay here, to have a pathway to citizenship for the dreamers. 80% of the fucking country wants that. And so you tell me where the center is, because it is not where these Clinton people are. That is not the fucking center. That is the right.
I think I can't
say that until I'm like blue in the face.
A good reminder is that like most Democratic voters are pretty center-left liberals. Like they're more left than they realize. And like the insane people you see online, you know, like the big centrist troll accounts, they're not representative of fucking anything. They're representative of a very tiny minority that is only outspoken online. You don't see a lot of these people, you know, in real life. You don't see, I guess you call them the radical center, which is an oxymoron, but I mean, the people online, they're not representative of anything. I mean, when you talk about people pulling the party to the right, it's the politicians and the pundits doing that. It's not necessarily the voters. The voters are just, you know, they're either not enthused to vote for someone else, or just like not informed enough, or they're just accepting whatever they're given, you know? I mean, it really is just this tiny minority of Clinton dead enders that promote this shit, and then the rest of it is just the politicians and the pundit class, you know?
Yeah. But I feel like they have such a huge influence over the narrative a lot of the time that you don't get to hear, you know, voices like yours and mine, Lauren, because they do own the entire space of where these ideas reside, right? Of where they're telling they're the people that are saying the country is with us. We're dead in the center, like CNN. We're in the center. You know, we'll give a balanced perspective to like both ideologies, to really one ideology. Just one is more fucking crazy than the other. But we won't ever say anything that's problematic with any of that. We'll just go, we'll call it even. We'll, you know, not mention anything about global warming, even though global warming has resulted in the increasingly warmer and warmer temperatures every single fucking year. Now we've hit more records this year because of how hot it is. And yet nobody's going to say a damn thing about global warming, because I guess the scientists that know about global warming, that are all in agreement, 98+% of scientists that deal with this agree that global warming is real and it's man-made. But then you're going to have somebody from like big oil say, no, it's not. And then one scientist come on. Like, that's not equivalent. That's not equivalent debate at all. And so, but that's where the narrative is. And when you have that narrative there, that they're telling people how to think, and people fall into that, unfortunately. Especially, again, going back to the fact that when you're working multiple jobs, you don't have the time. When you have your children to take care of and working multiple jobs, well, you'll just go with whatever somebody said, because it's easier, because you don't have the time to dedicate to knowing all of these little idiosyncrasies. Am I saying that word right? I don't know. I'm having word troubles today. Y'all forgive me. But they don't have the time to dedicate to the stuff that you and I, Lauren, do a lot of the time. I mean, it is very time consuming to see past the bullshit. And when you tell people, when you control the narrative, you control the people. And that's what's so disheartening about it, because I can say, if you break down the issue, if you break down issue by issue, the country is left and the center is actually left. But nobody knows that. I mean, I can't tell you how many times people get surprised over me saying that. And I say that, I think, every fucking broadcast that we do. I say it on Twitter all the fucking time. I say it to just random people all the time, and those random people are just like, what? I'm like, yeah, if you break down issue by issue, the country's actually left. But people don't know that. People don't know that conservatives in the South agree with the left because they're told they don't. And they really believe it because being on a team is more important than going with actual values. And that's really the tragedy of the situation. Sickening. Okay, thank you, Jake Smith. Jake says, I'm going to read it because it's kind of like tooting my own horn. But Jake says, Amanda is smart, and I don't know anyone more patient in debates than Amanda. I'm sure there's a lot more people that are more patient than I am. Okay, yeah, Celeste Holmes. Al Jazeera Plus does do, Celeste says, Al Jazeera Plus also does a great reporting on shit happening here in the United States. You're absolutely right. Unfortunately, they have been they have gotten a lot of trouble or from other mainstream media sources saying that they're too biased, saying that, because, Al Jazeera is Muslim sounding, that they don't report the facts well to the American people, that it's slanted, when actually they do very good reporting. I think they even have on their YouTube channel saying like that little thing that Russia Today has, that their funding sources, that they need to be taken with a grain of salt, something like that. But they actually do really good reporting from time to time. It's just hard. It's hard to access them because of the fact that if you don't have internet, don't even think about using internet to get your news sources, then, like my parents don't, they go to TV, and Al Jazeera Plus isn't on their TV channels. So unfortunately, that's the state of affairs. I think it's good to get a perspective outside of the United States, for sure. Someone is telling me about the NHK, like the Japanese news source, that they're a good source to go to get a more like holistic perspective on world events. But yeah, I definitely advocate for doing a variety of sources. See what your media is saying, and then see if that same narrative is abroad, is being perpetuated abroad. It's really eye-opening. It's an eye-opening experience sometimes. And it may be also quite negative because you're like, wow, everybody hates the United States. But the United States, our leaders don't reflect the majority of the people here. And it's sad. And I mean, I'm glad that they don't reflect the majority of the people. That's not the sad part. But the sad part is that this is the perception that people have of the United States, that we're all corrupt, we're all bullies, we're all, don't really care about anything. We're all wanting to just jump into wars, and that's just not the case. I was seeing a statistic today that only 23% of voters support Donald Trump. 23%, because only 28% are Republican voters to begin with. And so you see Republicans dwindling as a voting bloc, but they're the ones that own the entire country and dictate everything. So 23% of the country is deciding all of these things for everyone else. That's crazy to me. That just shows you how bad our democracy is in the United States. That's very indicative of a very problematic system.
I mean, with the other countries' views of us, though, it's rightfully earned. All we do is bomb the shit out of them, kill their people, steal their oil, create coups and take out their leaders. That's all we fucking do. All we are just corrupt murderers in the eyes of other people. And it's good, I think, that other countries really fucking hate us, because it's absolutely deserved. And they're not hating the people in America. I mean, okay, some might, but like generally it's people understand that this is the government. Our government, we don't have control of it, just like they don't have control of theirs. I mean, it's a fucking mess, but the U.S. is rightfully hated, in my opinion.
Oh, no, I think it's completely earned. I just
Yeah.
don't believe that the majority of Americans agree with these policies.
Definitely
and they
not.
a long time. This is not a new phenomenon. I also believe that the majority of the world doesn't have a grasp of how bad our elections are and our democracy is, because we do have voting suppression. I don't think a lot of the world knows that we assure that certain classes and certain groups of people have more difficulty voting and aren't able to
vote. They know that, and that's just another reason to hate the country, because it oppresses the other countries around the world, and it oppresses its own people. I mean, the U.S. is just a giant bully internally and externally.
But Lauren, my point is that I honestly don't think that a lot of the world does know that we do have voting suppression, and that our democracy is so bad that it's literally classified as an oligarchy, because the corporations and the ruling elite, a handful of people, are running the country and continue to do so. But I think, like, generally people assume that the elected officials do actually represent the will of the people. And that's why I think the people themselves are viewed negatively abroad. Having talked to, just anecdotal, of course, but then there are some people, don't get me wrong, there are some people around the world that are very attuned to U.S. politics and policies, and they're very aware that we do have these voter suppression laws, that we do assure that inmates that if you have been convicted of crime, we don't necessarily reinstate their voting rights. And there are people around the world that know these things. And so they won't blame the American people for the decisions of their quote unquote leaders. But yeah, it's rightfully earned. We're a monster, and a big giant bully. And we should, I don't know how to, I just go to think, like, what if I was in this position, if I was, president, how would I atone for all of the things in the past? And I'm not sure if I would be able to do so. All I could do is stop it, or do my best to stop it from happening again, and stop it, as it exists now. But there's so much suffering we've caused in the past that we should be responsible for those actions, whether it's rebuilding people's places, or I guess that's all we could do. We can't, we
can't bring people back to life.
Yeah, thank you. I was trying to say that. We can't bring people back to life.
There's really not enough time in the world for America to atone for its sins.
There probably isn't. I just hope that one day we'll be able to. And I don't know if the world would accept it, because they're like, well, didn't you try to rebuild this area once, but instead you bombed it? You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, why? They have no reason to trust us, no reason to trust anything that we do, and no reason to trust any apology that we make. I mean, gosh, we killed millions of people from nukes.
Mm-hmm.
And people are like, well, that was a good thing. No, it wasn't. Millions of people fucking died, and died horrifically.
And when we kill civilians, we don't even know the proper death count, because basically any teenage and adult male that dies is counted as enemy combatant. So we don't even honestly know how many innocent people we've killed.
Yeah. How do you walk? You can't walk back from that. And even if we got, the best president in the world, I just don't think that they'll be able to change anybody, to change any perception anybody has about the United States, because of how much damage we've done. And we've done damage. We've done great damage. And to think and to argue to me that we haven't is disgusting. It means that you are grossly uninformed, or you are willfully ignorant.
Or just a nationalist.
Or just a fucking nationalist. And nationalists I don't even entertain conversations with nationalists.
Yeah.
Not at all. I used to travel.
No one should.
Okay, Craig Robb says, I used to travel to the U.S. for about 200 to 250 days of the year for 5 years. I got a good sense of how it is. I'm not really sure what he's saying is how it is. Yemen and Gaza are the most disgusting human tragedies at the moment. Yeah, absolutely. Libya is up there too. I mean, like I said earlier in the program, we're bombing and engaging in war with 40% of the world's countries. And our own citizens don't even know that. They don't know that. I lose hope some days. I'm not gonna lie. And this is one of those days. I just do. Okay. Well, at that, enjoy, guys. I think we're done for the day. Sorry we couldn't do a call-in. I did my best to try to read some things that you guys had to say. Oh, I thought somebody was addressing you, Lauren, but they weren't. My mouse, guys. All right. Oh, by the way, if you liked what you saw, please subscribe to our channel if you aren't already subscribed. And please consider making a small monthly donation to our Patreon page. Again, it helps keeps our lights on, and any little bit that you can do would be very helpful. We also, if you do not feel comfortable donating via Patreon, we also have a PayPal that you can donate to make a one-time donation so that it's not a monthly fee. And those will be linked in the description box. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we will be back Thursday, and we will hopefully have the call-in feature so we can hear your lovely voices. Bye, guys.